The Amazing Digital Circus is a show about people trapped in a video game, but it uses that stage to deal largely with the psyche of its characters, with each having issues or even perhaps full-on mental disorders. So let's break each character down and what fans think about is going on in their heads. My name is Deepcut, friends call me Deep in the Box, and subscribe if you haven't, or subscribe if you have even. You can subscribe twice, what's stopping you? Now before we start, keep in mind that this is both subtle messaging from a creator and interpretation from a YouTuber who are not mental health professionals. Nothing we say are rules or laws, and it should be noted that we're dealing with symbolic representations of real-life issues whose definitions are evolving and changing. The point here is that no one should feel upset with Gooseworks for presenting a certain idea a certain way, nor should they get upset with me or anyone else really for inferring something about a character. If you have differing ideas about a character or mental health as a whole, you can put it in the comments down below, but humans have the right to explore these ideas in art and commentary, and we don't need to use it as a reason to attack each other. Part 1. Gangle. Now, when it comes to Gangle, we have perhaps the most extreme examples of mental disorders on screen. Gangle is a character who is constantly sad, and while she has a happy mask she can wear, it often breaks fast or, as we saw recently, just helps Gangle put on a fake face. Gangle is capable of genuine smiles without it, but they tend to be for moments that are meaningful to her, such as we saw when she got off of work. Because of this, many fans believe that Gangle, at the very least, is depressed, and some interpret the different mask that she wears as being a sort of in-world metaphor to mood-stabilizing pills, which can make her feel normal at first, but later makes her feel like she's putting on an act. Some people also want to believe that Gangle's comedy and tragedy mask represent bipolar disorder, with Gangle jumping between extremes of joy and sadness, but mostly just sadness. Gangle alludes to this with her comment about having a manic episode, one so powerful that she says it will last 3 seasons, indicating that she's getting quite the manic high from working at Spudsies. Particularly from her position as a shift manager, where those who normally bully her, like Jax, are now under her control, and she gets congratulations simply for wearing a fake smile for the day. Part 2. Zooble. Until Gangle, Zooble was the character who had the most obvious play with mental health in the show. Zooble is a character who suffers from body dysmorphia, meaning that they didn't feel comfortable in their body in real life, and they still don't in the game. In the game, this manifests as Zooble's avatar having the ability to change their parts. While other characters like Gangle can integrate props like new mask into their design, Zooble is specifically built to be a customizable toy. Zooble still has issues with their body despite this customization, and it's pretty obvious that this goes beyond Zooble just being made up of silly toy parts. The whole appeal of these types of fandoms like the Digital Circus is that they allow people to reimagine themselves in a way that is more comfortable for them. Oftentimes, this is appealing to people with body dysmorphia as they get to make a body that they are more comfortable with, one that often still has what they imagine as their real body's flaws, but presented in a way that makes them feel positive about it. Zooble is a representation of this trend, with the eventual dead end being that Zooble's real issue is that they aren't happy internally. Because of that, no amount of changing the outside will fix what's wrong with Zooble. Don't get me wrong, a lot could be solved by Zooble somehow getting out of this game and back into their real body, but they still wouldn't be happy with the body they are in once they get there. And a lot of fans want to believe that, like in the circus, Zooble had to deal with a lot of therapy in real life where the therapist wasn't really listening to them, possibly being forced into this situation by a father the way Kane forces Zooble to do therapy in the show. Part 3. Kinger. Another character we see a lot of this sort of mental health commentary on is Kinger. Kinger was introduced to us as outright insane, but as time goes on, he seems more so like he has Alzheimer's. A big part of his problem is that he doesn't seem to remember things, or even remember what he is supposed to be focusing on moment to moment, blurring together memories of the past with his present. He is known to be the oldest circus cast member, with him also seeming to be in the circus among the longest, if not the longest, meaning he's had more time than the others for his digital mind to deteriorate. This made it really touching when he went to the basement of the haunted manor and started to have more coherent memories and interactions. When we first saw him in the pilot, he seemed like a generically crazy man who spent all his time in some pillow fort, alone and going even crazier. In the Haunted Mansion, however, we learn that the pillow fort is dark and not as overstimulating to him, allowing Kinger to better focus and remember his life. Additionally, it brings out an emotional state associated with his wife, which allows him to think more clearly about his history. Part 4. Pomni. Pomni is a character who at first just seems a bit nervous, but as others have pointed out in the comments, Pomni seems to be suffering from anxiety, not just of her situation, but in general. She isn't sad the way Gangle is in the circus, but in a consistent state of anxiousness, so much so that she doesn't even feel comfortable helping other people like Gangle with their own issues. This explains why the haunted mansion was so hard for her, as it's not just rooted in horror, but anxiety, playing on Pomni's natural tendency to be nervous about the unknown as opposed to curious the way someone like Jax might be. Part 5. Ragatha. Ragatha is a character who I haven't seen a solid diagnosis for, so to speak, but she does have an interesting psychology. A lot of people say she is a people pleaser, but we might more accurately say that she has something of a compulsive need to please, because she also has a compulsive need to be liked. She doesn't just people please, she tries to manage people to have some sort of control over them, so you could also say that she has control issues. At the end of the day, all of these are likely just defense mechanisms, maybe from growing up in situations where she felt she had to not just affirm others, but also help manage their emotions. We've talked before about the theory that Ragatha was rich, having tea parties and dancing lessons and horses. Though others have pointed out that these descriptions from Ragatha, while on the stupid sauce, are just references to the movie featuring Raggedy Ann, who Ragatha is of course inspired by in the game. Regardless of if it's just a reference to a movie or a reference that actually inspired Ragatha's backstory, Ragatha seems to have grown up in a situation where she was expected to self-censor to make others feel more comfortable. If not from a rich family, it may have been just a toxic family, one where Ragatha experienced less chaos and suffering if she managed the emotions of her own parents, which is unfortunately a lot more common than people realize. Some parents basically use their child as a therapist, and to avoid potential fights and conflict, these kids often learn to navigate their parents and siblings while maintaining a polite persona to avoid outbursts from whoever they're dealing with. Ragatha basically likes to figure out what makes people upset and does her best to make sure that never happens so that they can maintain calm and she can have a peaceful life, but it's not about her actually liking others. And she even makes it clear when on the stupid sauce that she doesn't like Jax, but she wants Jax to like her. And of course that brings us to part 6, Jax himself. Jax is a character who could probably have an easy time getting a real diagnosis, with some fans saying he is just a simple bully, and others claiming he is a full-blown sociopath. I have also heard avoidant personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, and to be honest, nothing seems particularly right, and that's okay. I'm sure as time goes on, we'll get something of a more specific idea of what's going on with Jax, but for now, it's okay to just acknowledge that he has a lot of different issues and is antagonistic to others. On the surface, narcissism makes the most sense to me, as that is often involved in whatever layers of diagnosis that someone with Jax's habits of hurting people can be given. There are glimpses where Jax does seem to feel sad, but that isn't the same as caring about others. The only instance I think we might see this is maybe a glimpse where he asks Pomni how she's doing while working at Spudsy's. And he does seem sincere, as if this is the kind of thing he thinks people shouldn't have to go through. This from a guy that many fans think is a serious criminal outside of the game. Perhaps even just the abuser who hides behind more innocent wording like saying he is just a bully. This moment with Pomni can be humanizing, but it can also mean that Jax is just exhausted, and that makes him act essentially out of character. Too broken down to seek out the thrill of hurting others, though we'll likely see him getting right back to this in the very next episode. But what do you guys think? Remember to be respectful about this in the comments. Even if someone gets something wrong or it doesn't fit your personal ideas or definitions, it's an opportunity to understand what people around you are thinking at large instead of being upset about it, and a chance for you to share your thoughts as well. But talk about what you guys think each character's issues are in the comments down below, and if we get more interesting theories, maybe we'll make another video about it. See you guys next time.